Well, good morning and Merry almost Christmas. We're almost there, almost a few more days until it arrives. And as Eric said, Christmas is, for some of us, a very kind of hopeful and joyful time of expectation. And for others of us, it can be time of grief or mourning or loss or missed expectation. And the truth is that for most of us, Christmas season is complicated. There are all kinds of good things and all kinds of hard things. And with relationships or family or friends or things that you expected to happen and didn't happen, it's just can turn out to be a complicated season and time of life. But as complicated as Christmas might be with your friends or your family, the message of Christmas is really not complicated. It is deep, it is profound, but it's not complicated. It is simple, and that's why we're looking last week and this week at John chapter 1, this beginning of John's gospel, as he kind of says, here's what Christmas is about. Here's who Jesus really was. It goes not just back 2,000 years ago to Jesus' birth. It goes all the way back to in the beginning, he says in verse 1, from the very foundation of time and the foundation of the world. And so, I'm saying, like, what is Christmas about? What is John 1 about? I think C.S. Lewis really summed it up well when he said this. He said, the Son of God became a man in order to make men sons of God. What's Christmas about? What is John 1 about? It is about the Son of God coming, Jesus coming in the flesh. He became a man in order to make us children of God. That's what Christmas is all about. That's what John 1 is all about. That's the meaning and the message that underlies all of what we do at Christmas. And I was thinking about this actually just yesterday morning. I was wrapping some gifts for my wife for Christmas. And is anybody else just a terrible gift wrapper? Like, oh, wow, a lot of people. Last service, I was like, I felt alone up here. This is just like an art that eludes me. I mean, my wife wraps a gift, and it is like from heaven itself. And then I sit down there, and I'm taping and trying to get ribbon. I mean, nothing ever works. But I thought to myself, like, what if I, like, wrapped up a gift? I spent, like, all day, I'm going to get this thing perfect. And I just made the most beautiful wrapping. Like, it was the best colors, it was the right stuff. All the edges lined up, and the tape was, you couldn't see it. And I did the thing with the ribbon, the scissors or stuff, whatever, it makes it like curl up and look nice. I mean, I don't even know what that is, but I know, so I've seen people do it. And if I did that and made it just like the perfect package, I handed it to her on Christmas morning. She's like, "This is the most beautiful gift I've ever seen. I mean, I can't believe you did this." And I'd probably say, "Oh, the department store did it or something." But if I really did it, then she would look at it and she like, "This is amazing." And she opened it up, but she opened up and inside was just an empty box. And I said, well, see, the gift was the wrapping. Like, the gift was my effort in making it beautiful for you. Christmas is not going well for me if that's what I do. It's not going to go well for you if that's what you do. Why? Because it's all about the outside. Everything is external. Everything's about what it looks like in the image. But on the inside, there's no core. On the inside, the box is empty. She would much rather have a thoughtful gift, poorly wrapped, than an empty box, beautifully wrapped, as we all would. And I started to wonder if for many of us, even for our culture, if like that's what Christmas has become. That there's so much wrapping, there's so much decoration, there's so much outward, there's so much activity and stuff that we do, and yet on the inside we go like, but what's it all for? Is there really a meaning behind it? Is there anything underlying all this? Was at Christmas, like we can kind of sense, like no matter who you are, kind of sense there's like a meaning to the world. Like you walk through the malls and you hear like Joy to the World playing, like there's something bigger here, something bigger to Christmas than all the like the parties and the lights and the trees and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we kind of rush through it, and then it's December 26th, and we're sitting there with a lot of trash and a dying tree. It's kind of like, when do the bowl games start? Like, when does football come back? It's like, what happened to Christmas? But we know there's like something, there's got to be something more than just lights and trees and gifts, right? Surely those things are the symbols of Christmas, but not the essence, not the heart. Surely the box isn't really empty. It's not all just wrapping, is it? I think we kind of intuitively feel that. We intuitively know that. And if you're a Christian, like what a Christian says is, yeah, those are all symbols. Like we give presents because we believe there's an ultimate giver of good and ultimate gifts. We put up lights because we believe that in a dark world there really is hope, there really is light, there really is truth. We put up trees because we believe that Jesus climbed the tree, Jesus died on a tree, Jesus paid and sacrificed for our sins. And that's really that kind of meaning, that kind of depth. That's what John's getting at when he starts his gospel. And if you notice, he starts almost in like secret code. And we talked about this last week. If you were here, this is what he said. Look at verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Who is the Word? Why is he saying Word? Well, he's using that to describe Jesus. Jesus is the Word. In the beginning was Jesus. And why does he call him the Word? And we talked about this some last week, but here's what it's getting at. When John said this would have like exploded into all the Greek audience that he was writing to, because they used that, if you remember what I say the word for word was in Greek, the logos. See, they would always talk about there must be we hear our word logic, right? There must be a logic to life. Like there must be a meaning behind it. Like surely there's an inner logic that actually explains or makes sense out of the world. Surely this deal makes sense. So they call that the logos. And they believed it was a principle. But when John says it, he says, yes, there is a logos, there is a center, there is something in the box, there is a meaning to all of life, but it is not a principle that you need to strive to understand and analyze. It is a person that you can know and love. The heart of life, the meaning of life, John says. See, the logic of life, a good translation for this would be, in the beginning was Jesus, the meaning of life. That is a bold claim. That is a claim that's just exploding into John's culture here. He's saying, yes, there is a meaning. In the beginning was the logos, the central core. There's something in the box. And if you're honest, you know that is what every person wants. Everybody wants to have meaning. Everybody wants to have purpose. You don't have to be religious or not, whatever, to do that. Like, we are wired. Human beings are wired for meaning. If you have been around children, when they learn to talk, what is the first thing they start doing? What is the first word they start asking? Why? Why is this? Why is this like this? Why are you making me do this? Why do we have to go here? Why does he look like that? Like they just ask question after question after question. They want to know why. They're wired for it. The other day, one of my kids was just asking, why this, why this, why this? I was like, you are going to make me, I said, you're going to make me pull my hair out. And then without skipping a beat, he goes, you don't have hair, Dad. I mean, he's not good at the metaphorical meanings of things yet. So you just want to know why, right? Like, if you're a human being, you want to know what's the reason thing. Like, we have a cat. My cat does not want to know why. My cat's not burdened by the meaning of life. My cat's not burdened by these questions. Literally, our cat almost burned our house down this morning. That is you're asking how that happened. Ask me after the service, a different story. But she never cared why. She never cared. She didn't ask why, because she's not made in the image of God as we are. See, if I come up to you after the service and I say, I need you to give me $10,000. If you're still, yeah, you would laugh. And if you don't laugh, you're still talking to me, what are you going to say? Why? Why would you need that? For what reason? And I just say, oh, just trust me, I need it. Okay, it's not happening. But if I gave just a good enough reason, then maybe it would happen. So you're telling me there's a chance, right? See me after service. But you're going to want to know a reason for that, and you're going to want to know the meaning. You're going to want to know what's the logos, like what's the logic behind what you're asking. We're just built to have meaning in life. We always are. Now, in John's day, there were two kind of basic ways that people were like, here's how you find meaning in life. Here's how you find the logos. In the beginning was the Word. Here's how you give significance and meaning to your life. And I know you're saying, like, oh my gosh, she's going to give us a history philosophy lesson. I'm not. I'm going to spend 1 minute on that and tell you why it's important. So the first way is that these were the Stoics. Like, there was a whole school of thought and a way of life that they were called Stoics, and you kind of know what Stoic means. So basically, if you were a Stoic, to figure out the meaning of life, you just accept what comes. Whatever the world gives you, whatever the logos gives you, you just accept it. You just conform your life to that. You do the right thing. You do your duty. You obey. You be a good person. And you never crack, you never break. Like you just accept what you bear up under, whatever suffering or anything else that comes in life, you just take it. And the Stoic motto would be like, never let them see you cry, never let them see you crack, never let them see you bleed, never let them see you break. because you got to be real, you got to be strong, you got to be true, and all that is the Stoic. But the problem is you can be strong and be big and but you're not going to be human. Like, you're not actually dealing with you. You're actually dealing with your emotion. You're actually dealing with your heart. And so it's serenity now, insanity later. It's just the trade-off you have to make if you want to be a Stoic. So Stoicism is do your duty, but it doesn't fully work. It doesn't actually get you in touch with the meaning of life. And the other way was the Epicurean way, and that's another philosophy way of life, and you see that in Acts 17 and other stuff. But the Epicureans basically said this: it's not do your duty, it's follow your dreams. Follow your heart. Pursue pleasure. The Epicureans would say, who is to say if there's a logos? Who's to say if there's a meaning in life? Who is to say if there's anything really in the box? The best we can do is just put the best, brightest wrapping on our lives and enjoy everything and pursue pleasure, and that's the best you're ever going to get. Like, who's to say what's right or wrong or true or false or gods or many gods or one God or whatever? Just follow your dreams. Now, is there anything new under the sun? This is basically the cultural divide. For many of us, it's a generational divide that we experience something like that. For many of us, it's a older brother, older sister, younger sister divide. For many of us, it's a cultural, political divide, right? Like, the Stoics, do your duty. If you want to have identity, if you want to find meaning in life, do your duty. The Epicureans, follow your dreams. Those are basically the two ways that we do life in our culture, right? Like, it's not as simple as that, but you're kind of dominating by one or the other. And we would say there's traditional people and there are modern people. We would say there are conservatives and there are liberals. We would say there are religious people and there are irreligious people. It's the same exact divide that we experience right now. And what John is saying is both of those ways have some value. Do your duty and follow your dreams. Like, they both have some merit, but neither one of them are going to get you in touch with the logos, like what your life is really for, what meaning is really there, whether or not your life is you just putting window dressing and wrapping, or whether there's actually something in the box. And so John, that's why it's so powerful when John comes and says, in the beginning was Jesus, the meaning of life. Now, as a culture, we're kind of moving more and more towards the Epicurean view, more and more toward the just do what you got to be. You got to be the master of your own destiny, captain of your own soul kind of way of life. And you know, if you're younger, you know this. If you've been in college the last 10 years or are in college, you kind of know this. Here's what one professor from Harvard, Stephen Jay Gould, here's what he said. What's the meaning of life? He's answering. What's the meaning of life? Why are we here? What's our purpose? This is his answer. We are here because one odd group of fishes had a peculiar fin anatomy that could transform into legs for terrestrial creatures. Why are we here? We are here because comets struck the earth and wiped out the dinosaurs and gave mammals a chance. Why are we here? We're here because the earth never froze entirely during an ice age, because a small, tenuous species arising 250,000 years ago has managed so far by hook and by crook to survive. And then he closes like this. He says, we might yearn for a higher answer, but none exists. There is no meaning. There is no logos. There is no center. There is nothing in the box. He says, stop fooling yourself. Stop pretending. And he goes on to say, the best you can hope for is just to wrap it up pretty. The best you can hope for is just to do the things that are fun to you and pleasurable to you, and try not to remind yourself that the box is empty. Now, that all sounds kind of very heady and philosophical, but let me just kind of bring it down to earth. It's basically all the people who have said, like, there is no God, there is no meaning, there's nothing that kind of centers us and grounds us. There's no reason to really get up in the morning. Basically, all those people have begun to admit why they believe that, and here's why. They said, I didn't believe the world is meaningless. I didn't say God doesn't exist because I was compelled by all the great arguments. I determined that life was meaningless, that there was no God, because I didn't want there to be a God. You say, what do you mean you didn't want? Because here's why. If there is no logos, if there's no meaning, if there's no center, if there's nothing in the box, there's no God, then there's nothing for that I have to account for. I don't have to account for anything. I don't have to conform my life. I don't have to be responsible to anything or anybody. I can be completely autonomous. I can be completely free to do whatever, completely liberated, right? Morally or politically or sexually or whatever, like do whatever you want, because you just got to wrap it up pretty and try not to remind yourself that there's nothing in the box. Now that sounds like our definition of freedom, but actually what John is saying is like ultimately that is slavery. And the issue is the problem with that, the problem with saying there is no God, there's no meaning, is that you can't live like that. You can't actually make your life work like that. You will always seek to make sense of the world. Because here's the deal. Here's what it means. If there's no meaning to life, there's no logos, there's no center, there's no God, here's what that means. Have you ever loved anyone? If you've ever loved anyone, that was completely meaningless. That was nothing but chemicals reacting in your mind and in your body. That's all it was. Have you ever been wronged by anyone? You ever perceived any injustice? You ever been wounded? You ever been hurt? You ever thought like, maybe you've been dealing with all the Ferguson stuff and you have this strong opinion about what was right and what was wrong about that situation. If there's no God, if there's no meaning, then all that injustice, all that woundedness you've experienced, it's just your perception. It's just meaning. It's just chemicals reacting in your mind. So you can't actually live without meaning. See, I could ask you, do you believe that there is anyone, anywhere doing anything that is wrong? And everybody in this room would say, yeah, Hitler was wrong. Anybody want to stand up and say, well, Hitler was just maybe a product of his time, could have been right? No, everybody would say Hitler's wrong, abuse is wrong, rape is wrong, discrimination is wrong. Like, you can say, everybody, you know that. But if there's no meaning, if there's no God, if there's no logos, there's no center, then those things aren't wrong, they're just happened. They're just somebody else, you were trying to wrap your present, but somebody else got in your way. And that's all it is. Just a different dressing. It's just a different paper, a different person's view of what the paper should look like. See, you cannot live without meaning. You have to do it. If you walk into a gym today and you're not real familiar, you walk up and like some of these machines look really odd, like you walk up and here's a machine that's got like, it's got plates and there's like a pin and there's holes in it and cables going this way and that way and like handles and then this like awkward seat that you think if I sat on I might really hurt myself and how does this, and you don't know what it's for, you don't know what the meaning of it is. Would you just jump on and start like moving stuff around? I mean, it might be, a machine for your abs, it might be for your pecs, it might be for your delts, for your lats, for your core, whatever. And if you just, it might just be scaffolding that the painter left there and you jump on, start moving stuff around and you don't know what it's for, disaster is going to happen. Disaster is going to ensue in that moment. Well, here's the deal. Some of us, we would never jump on some weird gym machine we don't know what it's for without knowing the meaning. We would never write a check of thousands of dollars without knowing why. But we get up and live our whole lives, all work and play and relationships. We give up and live our whole lives without really knowing what it's for. Without really knowing who it's for, without really knowing what the logos is. That's why John says, in the beginning was the Word, was Jesus, was the meaning of life. And he was with God, and he was God. What John is saying is what matters in your life is not how pretty you can make your wrapping, not what the externals look like, not if you can have the most and the best, but what's at the core, what's actually in the box. That there has to be this connection to God. There has to be this relationship with Jesus, the Logos, or else life is meaningless. And so he's saying you can know what's in the box because in the beginning was the Word. And guess what? Verse 14, the Word became flesh and he dwelled with us, among us. And you might look at all that and say, well, okay, I get it. Like you're telling me there is a meaning to the world. Okay, there has to be meaning in life. There has to be a center. There has to be a Logos. But I don't even know, how can I, it may not even be accessible. Who are you to say? Who is anyone to say if there is a meaning, then how do you actually get to it? And is this life really accessible? Can it actually happen? And that was actually something that C.S. Lewis used to believe. If you know anything about Lewis, Lewis was an atheist or agnostic, and he was a first-rate academic. He chaired departments at Cambridge and Oxford. He studied ancient and modern mythology, and he was not a Christian. And one night, fall night, 1931, Oxford College, he goes for a walk with a friend named J.R.R. Tolkien. And at the time, no one knew who either of these guys were. They were complete unknowns in the world. But we know now that Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings. Well, Tolkien was a Christian. And Tolkien that night shared his Christian faith, the Christian gospel, with Lewis. And Lewis says, I don't believe any of this stuff. And so here's the question that Tolkien asked Lewis. He said, listen, why do stories, because Lewis was a professor of stories and myths and that kind of, he's like, why do stories move you so much? They move you so much, you're giving your whole life to teaching about it and analyzing and studying it. Why do stories make so much sense to you? Why do they move you? And Lewis said this. He said, because myths and stories, the great stories of our life are like lies breathed through silver. In other words, they're not true, but they're beautiful. You want to grab a hold of them. You want them to be true, but they're not. And Tolkien said, oh, really, they're not true? Are you sure? And he said, of course, we all know these mythologies are wrong. And Tolkien goes, okay, listen, you're perceiving something in the stories that is real. Like, he says, the reason you love Sleeping Beauty, Lewis, is because you and I both know that at some level we are all under the spell of some sorcerer and we need someone to come and awaken us. The reason, Lewis, that you love Peter Pan is because you know, we all know at heart level, we were not meant to grow old. We were not meant to grow weary and run down. We were not even meant to walk. We were meant to fly. That's why you love Peter Pan. Like the reason, Lewis, you love Beauty and the Beast is because in your heart of hearts, you know that someone beautiful must come and with sacrificial love save the beast. And Lewis said, okay, yes, I see I sense that is true. And Tolkien said, okay, so when it comes to Jesus, his birth, his life, his death and resurrection, that is not just one more myth, one more dream pointing to that reality. Jesus is the reality to which all those other myths point, to which all those other myths find their home, find their truth. It's the reason we're so moved by stories, movies, books. And that night, C.S. Lewis became a Christian because he realized there was a reality that we all know. There's a meaning, there's a logos, and it was actually accessible. So what Christmas says is God in Jesus became accessible. He became known. He took on flesh, and he dwelt with us. I was thinking about that a few weeks ago when I traveled, and I had to go to visit my parents. I needed to go see them briefly. I just went by myself, and I was flying back into St. Louis, and I got on the plane, and I talked to my wife and kids, and they were like, we're so excited, Dad, for you to come home, excited for you to be back. And so I was up in the plane. As we were getting ready to approach, I was thinking, my kids and my wife, they love me. They were ready for me to come home. They can't wait to see me. They anticipate this. They believe in me, whatever. But as long as I'm up in this plane, it doesn't make any difference. As long as I'm up in this plane, it's not the same. It's not until I get down on the ground. It's not until I get home and get in the floor and wrestle with my kids that I become accessible, that I become real to them. They can get their arms around me. And the message of Christmas is Jesus came so you could get your arms around God, so you could see him, you could understand him. That's why it says, look at verse 9, the true light which enlightens everyone was coming into the world. He made himself known. He made himself accessible. If you read the stories of Lincoln's presidency, one of the striking things is that his little boy, Tad, just kind of had the run of the whole White House. And so Lincoln would be having like important, the Civil War was going on, so he would have important meetings going on, like he'd be War Cabinet time and Secretary of Navy there and the war there and everything, and then like little Tad just bust into the room and jump on his dad's back. And you would think, and the secretaries are like, can you get this little kid out of here? Because we're trying to solve a national crisis here. And Lincoln would say, no, he's my boy. He'd put him up on his lap and talk to him and make him part of the meeting as long as he wanted. And he would play toys and run out of the room. Why? Because he was Lincoln's son. He had access to the president because of his relationship to the president. If you and I try to run and jump on the president's back, what's going to happen? You might have good intent. You might be wanting to give him a hug, but you're going down. But President Obama's two daughters come in, and they get to come right in. They get to have perfect access. Why? Because they're the president. To us, he's the president, but to them, he's dad. And so they have access. Christmas is about the fact that you and I, through Jesus, have access to God. He has come down out of the plane. He's gotten on the floor. In fact, he's gotten on the cross. That's the beauty of message. That's the good news of Christmas. Like, the great news of Christmas is Jesus has come down. There is a meaning to life. You can know him. But like Christmas, there's a complication, and that's that we naturally reject him. Like, we don't receive him naturally. That's what it says in verse 10 and 11. Look at it. Verse 10 and 11, it says, Jesus was in the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. The world he created didn't recognize him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. Now, if you notice, verse 10 and 11 say the same thing. They didn't know him, they didn't receive him. Is he just saying, like, just repeating himself for emphasis? No, I think he's actually saying there are two ways you can reject life. There are two ways that you can reject God. There's a verse 10 kind of rejection of God and a verse 11 rejection of God. Verse 10 we know, right? And he says, he came to the world didn't know him. And when he says world there, we kind of think cosmos and like he came to the whole world. But what John means by world is he came to the Gentiles. He came to the non-Jewish, the pagans, people who've never really considered this God. And it said they didn't know him. And that would be equivalent in our day of rejecting, like, I'm running my own life, thank you, God, but I'll do my own thing, or I don't believe in God, or I just kind of, maybe there is a God, maybe there isn't, I just kind of do my own thing. So you ignore, you reject, you walk away from God. We're all kind of familiar with that, like you reject God by being bad. But then John said there's actually a verse 11 rejection where you not only reject him by walking away or being bad, you reject him by being good. Look at verse 11. Verse 11, he says, Jesus came to his own, and his own received him not. Who are his own? They're his own people. They're the Jewish people. These are the good guys. These are the people who have a history with God. They've heard from God. They're born into this stuff. They have covenants and they have the law. And these are people who read their Bibles and they go to church and they fast and they tithe. And people would say those are the pillars of society. They're doing all the right things. These are very good people. And yet it says they did not receive him. How can these good people be on the outs with God? How is that even possible? It's because they fundamentally misunderstand what it is to reject God. See, when you hear, I reject God, when you hear the word sin, when you hear everybody's a sinner, what most of us have an interpret grid to that, and what we hear is there are good people and bad people in the world, and we here in the church are the good people. Why don't you join us and become good? Why don't you join us and clean your life up? Why don't you join us and get your life straightened out? Does that sound like good news of life to you? No. It's all about you. It's all about what you do, because, see, they fundamentally misunderstood what sin is. Sin is not, at its core, a broken rule. Yes, there are rules, and yes, we break them. But sin fundamentally is not a broken rule. It is a broken relationship. Do you see what it said? Like, he came to the world and what? They didn't obey him. No, he came to the world and they didn't know him. He came to his own and they didn't morally conform their lives to him. No, he came to his own and they did not receive him. Because to receive him is to have a relationship with him, to welcome him into your home, into your life, into your heart. That is what it is to receive him and not reject him. And what he's saying is there's something insidiously dangerous about, the idea that Christianity is just another way to be a good person. Yes, we want to be good people, but is that the fundamental? No, it's not a broken rule. Ultimately, it's first a broken relationship, because we've said, God, I don't want that relationship with you where you're the God, where you're the one in control, where you're the king. I want to have that role. And I'll be as good as I need to get that done if you want me to. See, every other religion is about God giving you a ladder, and you climb the rungs, and if you climb high enough, then you get up to God. And you can look down on all the other people who couldn't quite climb as high as you could. And so you get to the end of your life, and you're like, I'm on rung 12,722. Like, look at all those people down in the hundreds, down in the teens. And we've been to look down on people, like, who do you look down on? Who do you think I'm better than them, that person, that group of people? Like, because if you call yourself a Christian, there are people you look down on. You either fundamentally don't get the gospel or you're totally misapplying it. Like, who do you think I'm better? I'm better than lazy people. You think you're better than poor people. You think you're better than rich people. You think you're better than conservatives. You think you're better than liberals. You think you're better than adulterers and prostitutes and murderers. You think you're better than homosexuals. You think you're better than homophobics. Whenever we look down on anyone else, we're going, I don't fundamentally understand my own sin and the fact that it brings utter equality to the whole human race, saying everyone has rejected, everyone has flipped the relationship, everyone has said, I've not just broken rules, but I've broken the relationship, and it's much deeper, because if I go to my dad and say, Dad, I broke a couple of the rules that you said, will you forgive me? Well, yes, of course, but if I go to him and say, I don't want to receive you, I don't want to be in your life, that's a fundamental rejection. And that's why sin runs so much deeper than just keeping the rules, being a good girl or a good boy. It runs so much deeper than just getting the right wrapping paper on the outside of an empty box. And so if the fundamental of sin is not a broken rule but a broken relationship, the only way to fix that is not to obey the rules but to restore the relationship. And Christmas says that's what Jesus came to do, to restore the relationship. The song says he was pleased as man with men to dwell, that God and sinners get reconciled through him, through his work, through his life, death, and resurrection. He does what? He takes people who reject his life and he adopts them. He says, I'm going to make you my daughter. I'm going to make you my son. The Son of God became a man to make men sons of God. That's exactly what he says in verse 12. In verse 12 he says, but to all who did receive him, who believe in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. He restores the relationship. He doesn't just say, okay, you're forgiven, clean slate, now get it right. He says, no, I'm bringing you into my family. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and Jesus says, welcome into that. You now have access. You can run and jump on his back. There's never any important thing going on that's more important than you, that's more needed than you with God. There is something in the box, is to be adopted into God's family. And he says God gives you the right, like the legal right, like you never have to doubt. It can never be repudiated. No one can ever take that away from you. And some of you say, well, you know what, like, I would love that, but like you don't understand, like I've broken the rules, I've broken the relationship, I've been an addict, I've done this, I've done that, whatever, and like I just have all this brokenness, I keep screwing up, and God's not going to adopt me into his family because I'm just messed up. That would be to fundamentally misunderstand what he just said adoption is. Look what it says. To those who receive him, he gave the right to become employees of God. That's not what he said. Because what happens when you have an employee that's messed up, they don't do their thing, what do you have to do? You have to get rid of them. But he didn't say right to be an employee, he said the right to be a child. And when a parent has a child that's messed up, a child that's messing up, a child that's struggling, a child that's hurting, what does that parent do? The parent draws closer. The parent gets in more. The parent gives more of herself or himself to the child because he sees the brokenness, sees the need. One of my really good friends, 10 years ago, they had triplets, and there's preemies, and they had really massive complications. One actually only made it a couple days, and then they had the twins left, and they were just wondering, like, how are we going to handle this? There's all these complications. They were like 1.5 pounds when they were born and tiny, and it's like, what are we going to do? And we're going to have to be up at nights and managing all this. And said, okay. So what they did was they actually like flipped a coin and said, whoever you get with the coin flip, you're going to like manage all of their care and whatever they need. And so the mom got the son, and the dad got the girl, and the son actually just progressed rapidly, like grew, healed, everything was fine, like became almost, completely normal very quick. The daughter had all these complications. She had strokes, she couldn't eat, she had to have a feeding tube, and they would put the food in, it was kind of, this liquid stuff, and then every night she would throw up, and she would wake up in that, and so the dad had drawn, he'd flipped the coin, and he got her, and every night he was having to get up with her, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever, and he did this, and I was talking to him about it at year 5, and I was like, isn't it time to trade out now, you get him, and she gets, she gets her, and he was like, no, I would never do that. He said, we're like this now. We have a special bond. Through all of her brokenness and all of her sickness and all of her needs, she and I are like this because I've met her in all those things, and I wouldn't trade any of that for the world. And I was blown away because I was like, that is how God is with you. When you go to the brokenness, when you go to hurting, when you go to struggling, that's when God's grace goes from flurries and flakes to a blizzard because he draws in on you. The point of Christmas is that Jesus got close. He came down, and he adopted us into his family. And when you're adopted, you have the rights of children. You have the rights of daughters and sons. That's what happened when a lot of you have adopted kids, or you're fostering kids. We have a whole ministry at our church to adopt, foster, and support families who do. And a lot of you have done that. And when you do that, there's a legal proceeding. You stand before a judge with the kid and your attorney, and this is what happened. I got these questions from a parent in our congregation, and she said, this is what we did when we stood up in front of the judge to adopt our daughter. This is the questions the judge asked. So your lawyer standing with you, the parents, and asking the judge, or in front of the judge, they would say this: parents, do you believe it's in the child's best interest to live with you and be under your care? Yes, absolutely. And I understand, parents, that you intend to give this child a new name. Yes, we do. Do you understand that that means that she will have a new birth certificate and an entirely new identity? Yes, we do. And do you understand that she will be your heir, entitled to everything you have, just as if she had been born naturally to you? Yes, we understand that. And do you understand you'll be responsible for her well-being and care? And in your heart, is this what you want? Yes, it is what I want. It's absolutely what I want. That's a perfect picture of what it means to be given the right to receive him, to believe in his name, to be given the right to be a son or a daughter of God. So as we close, I want you to imagine that Jesus is standing there with you and God and asking those questions about you. And if you're a Christian, I want you to hear the voice of God speaking over, you are my beloved daughter or son in whom I am well pleased. If you're not a Christian, you don't know yet where you stand with God. You don't know what the meaning of life is. You don't know if there's a logos or whatever that is. Imagine what it's like. Imagine what it would be like to be received, to be adopted into God's family. So hear this and just put your name in this. You might want to close your eyes and just imagine. Jesus is your attorney before God. Father, I understand that you want to adopt Jeremy. Yes, I do. And Father, I understand that you intend to give Jeremy a new name and make him part of your family. Absolutely. And Father, do you understand that this means that Jeremy will have a new birth certificate and a new identity, and that he will be your heir, entitled to everything you have, just as if he had always been your own son? Yes. And Father, will you be responsible for his well-being, for his care? And Father, is this something you, the God of the universe, in your heart, something you want? Yes, I want it so much that I sent my son to get him. The Son of God became a man to make men the sons of God. Are you going to reject him or receive him? Is your life going to be about what's on the outside and just the wrapping, or is there something in the box namely an adopted relationship with Jesus. Let's pray together. Jesus, we are humbled to hear that you would look on us, those who reject you, those who try to prove with our good works, those who ignore you and walk away from you. And you would say, I've sent my own son for them. So Lord, help us, for those of us who do not know you, who do not know there's a logos, there's a center and a meaning, Lord, to believe on you right now, to receive you and to become a child of God. And those of us, Lord, who are children of God already, that would become powerful. That would become the center. That would become what is driving us, what we get up for in the morning, the meaning of our life. I pray for these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.